Hey there, everybody. This is Kristin from Teaching Balance, and I am here with you with this week's mindfulness meditation practice. And we are in the month of New Year, New No, which is all about letting things go, unburdening yourself, establishing boundaries. I mean, it's a beautiful catch-all, really. And when I was thinking about this theme, I think one year I made the word no in everything, but I'm not really feeling that this year. I was thinking about a phrase that I recently read in a book. I didn't bring it with me, but it's a pretty fun book because, of course, it's January and we're in the depths of winter. And it's a book about hygge, which you've probably heard of before. It's spelled Hyggge, I think. And it is this, my understanding is it originated in Denmark, and it's this idea of creating, warmth and coziness. But it's not just physical warmth and physical coziness, but it has this sort of energetic quality to it. So it's been a fun book to read. And the phrase that I really enjoyed seeing, that I underlined, was around this idea of allowing yourself from time to time to temporarily set down your burdens. So, I mean, you could use a lot of phrases here, but like putting things down for a while, setting down your burdens, giving yourself a break, your burden in whatever. I'm like gesturing this way, but you could think of it like off your shoulder. And this can be something where you just maybe give yourself a pass for a certain amount of time on whatever thing you think you could use a break on, whether it's being particularly efficient with your chores or maybe the pressure that you put on yourself to be there for everyone all the time, or whatever it might be. I think that, this is certainly not about just, tossing up your hands and saying to hell with it all. It's not like that. But it's more like, taking breaks is helpful and it's healthy, and it helps us to have a little bit more stamina where we take those breaks from time to time to kind of build ourselves back up. If you're into any kind of athletics, those ideas of like a rest day, whether you're training for some sort of a run or weights or whatever it might be, the point is it's good to take those days to give yourself those breaks, and to continue the metaphor into what I'm describing today, to give yourself the opportunity just to set something down for a while. Now, I've given a few examples, but the other thing that just popped into my head that I feel is worth mentioning is you could also even view this as a worry, like a worry that it's not necessarily as though it's not a worthwhile worry. There's a great deal to be concerned about in the world, as well as in our own small worlds individually. But sometimes it's just exhausting to feed that worry and to let it keep going. Again, doesn't mean it's not valid, but there's a point where it's like a subroutine in a computer running. It just drains, the RAM or whatever, like the energy, the ability for the computer to run, and of course, to continue that metaphor, to continue for you to run at maximum, potential, or at least, to be functioning well. So feel free to just reflect on what that might look like for you. It could be this idea of setting down a worry that's been on your mind. Like maybe just say, I'm going to give myself a break for a week. And every time I think of that, I'll say, I'm not going to worry about that until whatever. I mean, you could even pick a date. And of course, this idea of setting down the other things in our lives, the other burdens, tasks, responsibilities, even if you're passing them off to someone else or you're just letting them ride for a while, if that's something that is possible. So just play with that. And to come back to the hygge theme, I think the context of it, if I recall correctly, was this idea of, it's really important to take breaks and to not only that, but I think the context was specifically about gathering with others and the sense of like friendship, community, all of those types of things. And, when you come into that space to be more fully present, then it's easier if you allow yourself to leave your burdens by the door when you come in for this gathering to share and be open with and present to others. So, do with that what you will. Now, of course, one of the things that makes presence more accessible in any moment is where our mindfulness practice, because we become more aware of our internal experience, we become more metacognitive, we tend to notice our stress levels or whatever, our emotional escalation going up before it gets quite as far as we might have without being meditators. And so I say this is a wonderful way for us just to keep that ability to be self-aware in good working order so that it's easier, is to do these practices. And of course, there's also something really nice about taking a break for 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to ask you to either close your eyes or lower your gaze. Find that posture that feels supportive to you. I'm going to shift slightly. You've heard me talk about it before, that one way to allow a seated posture to feel even more supportive is to think of your vertebrae as coins stacked one upon the other. So they are self-supporting, and perhaps it would require a little less effort on your part to hold this posture. And if you're lying down, perhaps tweaking how you're lying, bringing into it a little bit, just a little bit more of a sense of formality. You're not just lying there, you're not trying to sleep. Instead, you are meditating in a lying down position. So what might that look like for you? If you haven't already, taking some of those long, slow, deep breaths in whatever way feels right to you. And then as you continue to settle in, noticing what anchor for your attention do you feel most drawn to today in this moment. Could be the breath, could be the body in its entirety or one part of the body. And it could also be sounds. I'm feeling drawn to sounds right now, but ironically, there isn't really much sound in this room. A slight settling of the house. What I hear more than anything else is just that ringing in my ears that so many of us have when things go completely silent. Now hearing a plane flying overhead. I think there's something interesting about choosing an external anchor like sounds as opposed to something more internal like the breath or the body. It really depends on your mood and your preference, but for me, the unpredictability of it is interesting. And my job is just to stay present to it, and then when my mind inevitably wanders, which of course it will, as will yours, just noticing that my mind has wandered and then bringing it back. And I feel like this can happen when there's a lot of sounds and when there's very few. It kind of doesn't seem to make much of a difference for me. So whichever anchor you choose, let's go ahead and sit in relative silence for a while, and I'll check back in a few. Noticing where the mind is now. And if it's wandered into thought or imagination, remembering that's all part of the experience. And you've heard me say before that the noticing that our mind has wandered is the sweet spot. That is how the vehicle through which we strengthen our self-awareness, our mindfulness. So it's never a problem. Each wandering is an opportunity to do that mindfulness bicep curl, so to speak. So for the time that remains, allowing ourselves just to settle in, reconnect to our anchor, our object of our awareness, and allow ourselves to rest there until you hear the final bell. 10 minutes. So in this month of New Year, New No, giving ourselves the opportunity to set down our worries, our burdens, our pressures, at least for a little while, and just to reflect on, like I said at the beginning, first of all, what might be something that sounds like it would be the perfect thing to choose. And also, if you're finding yourself feeling resistance to that in any way, maybe reflecting on why that might be and either choosing something else or really just allowing it to be an opportunity for self-reflection. So, as always, thank you so much for taking this time for yourself, and thank you for allowing me to accompany you on this journey. I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.